pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Our advisor won't be with us tonight. His father passed away, so it's understandable. Okay, first on the agenda is Luke Levine site plan special use permit. Okay, you want to tell us what you got going on and where you're at?
Yes. Hello everyone, my name is Quinn Luke. This is my wife Lisa. Steve Boak has been helping us from the standpoint of the septic. And Eric here is representing Don Brewer, the land surveyor who's helped us with our site plan. So we have been living here on Morgan Hill Road, this property, minus this little trapezoid looking property, for about 5 years, 150 Morgan Hill Road. When we bought the property, there was, can you scroll it up that way a little bit? And just down a little bit. When we bought the property, there was the house, a cabin that was in disrepair, and a barn and an animal shed. A couple years later, the house next door became available for sale, which was the original Morgan Hill School that is here, the Morgan Hill School, and a little cottage on the property.
Luke, I don't mean to interrupt you. I think I made a mistake. This is a public hearing.
Yeah, you gotta
Right.
open a public hearing.
I have to open a public hearing, and then you can.
That's fine. I thought you wanted me to start with.
I'm sorry I didn't do that.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay, do I hear a motion to open the public
I'll
hearing?
make a motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, now, is there anybody here that wants to speak on this public hearing? Do I show of hands? But just tell the secretary your name, please, and she'll.
Denise Lohan. Can you spell your last name, please? Loheac.
Anybody else?
Robert Holler, H-O-L-L-E-R.
Is that it for the record?
I don't know.
Okay.
Joe, I'll know it's you.
Okay, so now explain. You got the floor now.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem, no problem. So essentially, what we're doing here is looking to add 2 additional lodging structures, which if you scroll down a bit here, are back into the woods. This is an 8.5 acre property. This neighbor, Kim and Jay Burgess, live up the road. They own this property. Denise, who's here, her property is on the other side of the schoolhouse, and then this property in the back is Kent and Melissa. So essentially, in adding 2 structures, which are tent platforms with 15-foot canvas bell tents that sleep 3 people each, that puts us in a different category for this property. So this special use permit is just for the property at 150 Morgan Hill Road. It's not for 130 Morgan Hill Road, because the requirement is if you have 2 structures that are designed for temporary, 2 or more structures that are designed for temporary lodging, it puts you in a class where you need a special use permit that they describe as a camp, cottage, or resort facility. So in adding these 2 tents, sleeping 6 additional people on our property, that puts us in this class. There's also a structure further out in the woods, which is like a big tent basically. It's a platform also that is 30-foot diameter, where we have classes and workshops. And the intent with the lodging on our property is for people to stay overnight to take a class or a workshop that is led and organized primarily by my wife Lisa, who has a healing arts center in Brooklyn. So people are largely coming from New York. There are clients of hers, largely female, arriving on Friday afternoon and leaving on Sunday afternoon about 2 times, sometimes 3 times a month from Memorial Day until the end of October. It's a seasonal thing. The tents and this, none of these tents are year-round structures. We've gone through all of the requirements. We've now been going through this process since late last year, actually, and it was a learning curve on our end, not knowing what we necessarily needed to do, what we could do, what we were allowed to do, and we've gone through a process of getting a variance from the zoning board, which allows us to have, when you're in the special use category, you have to, the variances for property lines are different. So just a standard civilian can be 50 feet from the property line. If you have a special use permit, you have to be 200 feet, which we weren't able to do, but we got a variance of 80 feet, allowing us to be 120 feet. That was something that I think some of the neighbors, Denise, I think you got a notification, anybody that was an immediate neighbor. Is there anyone else, by the way?
I never got a notice on that.
It's anybody whose property line touches the, it's anybody whose property line touches
I'm
the.
directly across the street, so I'm looking at the road, I can touch it.
Yeah.
I should have got a notice on that.
I have
It's
your
200 feet. Oh, that's for this meeting.
the public hearing notice to you on this application.
No, he's talking about
Oh,
before.
okay, sorry.
When we got the letter in the mail, I noticed, Robert, that your name wasn't on there, and the only people's names that were on there were those who directly, whose property line directly touched, not on the other side of the street. So that's something that we'd have to talk to the town of Hurley about. So, what else can I tell you?
Can you go over the parking?
Oh yeah, good, there you go, that's exactly what I was gonna say. As you scroll up here, we were asked to take into consideration parking and septic. Those were the 2 biggest questions. And we do have this long driveway with a turnaround at the end, and we can fit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cars there. Maximum that we would be sleeping on this property is 10. That's what we are going to be allowed for. There's the existing cabin that's been there since the 20s that you both know well. They live across the street and have since for a long time. So, and have known all of the, not a lot of the previous tenants. So this cabin that we renovated sleeps 4. It has its own septic. With the tents, we would have to put in our own accommodation for that, and we have 2 options. One of which would be an outhouse that Steve can speak to if there's any questions about that, that complies with the state of New York and Ulster County Board of Health sorts of things. Any questions about that, Steve can speak to. Yeah, so then that's where the parking is there. If you scroll down again, and just back up again, so the property next door is not subject to the permit because there aren't 2 or more structures. It's a separate parcel. In fact, when we initially came in here, not knowing how this thing works, we wanted to get a special use permit for the whole property, and we were told we had to go back and regroup because we'd have to apply for 2 permits, and we don't even need a permit for this one. So that has its own accommodation for parking and septic and lodging, but it's not part of this specific application for this special use
It's
permit.
tied in with all your classes. You have people staying there every time you have a class.
Mm-hmm.
And the old shed has been converted to a 2-bedroom room. It's got 2 beds in it,
Mm-hmm.
by pictures shown on your websites.
Mm-hmm.
So you say you sleep 6 in that house.
Mm-hmm.
That was a 1-bedroom house with a
Those
minuscule septic
6
system.
between the house and the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's right there. It's that square box just to the left of the house.
Mm-hmm.
That was just an old shed.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be
It's a
storage.
cottage.
Well, now you say it's a cottage now because you did convert it with 2 beds. Basically, you got electric for lighting and 2 beds.
Mm-hmm.
No bathroom, no facilities, nothing. Okay? So that's relying on a schoolhouse, and whatever septic system is there. Vast to my knowledge, that septic system has about 50 foot of drain pipe and a 250 gallon tank. But if you're sleeping 6, and that's only mentioning the house by your websites and other people's, and then you say, and then there was another ad from previous, which I have found, and you said that schoolhouse could sleep up to 12. So,
No.
yes, I found it, and I have links, I archived websites. It's in there, you might have added it at one time in the beginning, you before you want to expand, I said, but you neglected to remove it. So the septic system on the house, technically since it's being changed to a different use, it should go through current septic standards. And I believe, since we're by the reservoir, you might have to contact the reservoir, if they overlook septic systems also.
I just interject there that he's not in the reservoir.
Huh?
He's
Yeah,
not in
we're
the-
not in the reservoir, but that's, it's good, it's good.
okay.
Say definite.
Certainly a good thing to be concerned about, Robert, but we're not in that zone. Now, secondly, this is a short-term rental, and it's not subject to the special use permit application that we're here to discuss.
Well, it's tied in because all your classes, you have the people staying in there as well as your tents. So you go from there, you go from one property to the other. So you're actually mixing the business between the two properties. Correct?
Yes,
Right. So not only
and this is
Airbnb,
something that we discussed initially from the beginning with the board as well.
so your Airbnb in the house in between the classes, and then you got all the beds in there. That property, you should definitely be looked at for an upgrade on the septic system. Not to mention the well, less than 100 feet from that system on top of it. Before you. When you go to the hunter's cabin, the hunter's cabin is the same situation, like you said yourself. That was built somewhere in 1920, something 1930, somewhere around there. The septic system, the last I recollect, when Vincent had the place, because he was going to change it to an art studio for his co-owner. There was like a 50,000-gallon drum and about 6 foot of drain pipe, because it's all rock, it was just barely under the ground. I don't know what he did, I believe he had just a little section of pipe. I know you renovated your place. Did you get permits for that septic system? Did you upgrade it since you have 4 beds in there and a couch? Did you say community couch? That's also being used as an Airbnb as well as used for your camp. Is that system up to today's standards? Since it was also a bungalow that's been vacant, unused since at least 1950. So I can't believe there's a grandfather in when you change the use. I appreciate you modernizing this place and fixing it up. I really like the pictures of your place. You know, I got pictures of what the place looked like when you bought it and what you have now from your Airbnbs with all your improvements, which I don't even know if you got permits to do all that. I don't know if you went through electrical inspections. You added fire out places. Did you get your fireplace permits? The fire department inspected. Did you do all this without permits? Yes or no?
All of the work that we've done,
All the improvements, no permits.
we haven't applied for any permits for those.
Well, that's something there that basically, to me.
Their renovations is,
To me, what
anything that we did
What
was
you're
not,
projecting, you just lost credibility. You got the place, you made it active, since as far as I've back from reviews, your Airbnb it since 2016. All right, you renovated, you did all kinds of renovation in the main house, you moved interior walls, you removed, which was, by looking at it, and from what I remember, the house should have been a low wall. You added exterior doors from an exterior wall in the kitchen. All right. You changed electric, you added wood stoves, again, no permits. Everybody knows you come to town, you have to get permits. You just can't change structures and do what you want without permits. Ask Mr. Ginther. He just changed his trailer and over. How many permits you get? How many inspections you get? Right? So now you're going here, you're giving us, saying you're gonna use the tents. I got pictures of the tents that were up last year.
well, that's why we're here to begin with, is that the tents were,
The tents are up now. Are they not?
the tents are up, and we were told that that would be okay.
Even though you don't have an approval.
We're not using the tents. We had to move the tents.
Tents were up for
Well,
a personal party, not a business thing.
According to your last booking, just this last weekend, it was the woman who was holding the class, Ricky, I don't know what class it was. She got on her website, she had the schedule for the rentals, for the class. It included the tents, it said 6 of it, 6 were started available, it said 3 were taken, 3 were available. It said, 2 beds was available in the cottage. One person took one in the schoolhouse. Now you're telling me there's not 3 tents? How did you get 6 available when you got 3 beds per tent? That contradicts what you just said. So you either have 1 or 2. You get a geodome in the back. That's a whole nother thing. Are you going to Airbnb that too on the weekends?
No, that's for the classes and workshops.
Since you Airbnb your main house, you rent your house over the winter. I hope you don't apply for starters, because that kind of throws you out of that. So, to me, that geodome would be a prime Airbnb. Also with the rent, with this last person I had, and I found it somewhere else on your website too. They said that if you wanted to get a cheaper rate because you need a cheaper rate, or you just like, I think the quote was, or you just like being wild, you could bring and pitch your own tent. Now, to me, that's moving you into a camper. You want campground regulations on this place?
I believe that's what the special use permit's for.
Well, to me, campground regulations are a whole lot. I got a picture of a big fire dance you had. That fire pile must have been 6 feet round at least. Just had scatter rocks around it. You know, campground requires you to have a fixed fireplace.
We'd be happy to comply with any needs for fireplaces.
So, you know, I mean, the town, to me, this is mixed use. It's like we want to do a campground and get away with it and try to snowball everybody that's less than a campground. We got major rental, all 3 structures and 2 properties are all rentals, not only for the class, but on the side. That's a bunch, it's a security issue for the neighbors. We don't know who you're at. You can just only rent your Airbnb just in case the neighborhood. I'm not here. During the day, I'm mostly not home. Winter, I'm not here, as you know. It's obvious my place is vacant. Someone can rent your Airbnb and sit and go, geez, that place is empty.
We don't rent our house during the winter Airbnb. We have a tenant that's there from November through April.
Yes, I've heard you rented the main house.
And the house
But
next door as
regardless,
well.
you know, some people aren't thieves, but they are thieves on opportunity. So someone rents your Airbnb, says, oh geez, that place is empty. Well, this is my last time we'll be out here. Let me go across the street real quick, see what I can steal. Break in and steal. And they're gone. So we got security issues with that, at least I do. You know, if I wanted to live next to a campground or a commercial property, I would have went to Kingston someplace else. Not in this rural neighborhood where I grew up. But I want to see good septic. You say, to you about the outhouse?
Yeah,
That's a compost toilet.
compost toilet is something different. Those are usually self-contained.
Is this a tall building with wood or whatever?
Yeah,
Right? So how's that set up?
that's set up 2 different ways depending on,
How do you have it set up? Are you planning on setting it up?
we have to do further exploration on the property in order to determine that.
Well, you can't dig it around, it's all rock.
That's exactly what we have.
Let's just jump right to that. If it's rock, then there's a solution.
We have to dig around and we need a certain minimum amount of soil to comply with state regulations. It's about 42 inches. If we have that, before we hit groundwater or bedrock, then we can comply with a pit type of outhouse. And if we don't comply with that, then we have the opportunity to dig a hole in whatever rock or whatever's there and put in a watertight vault so that nothing leaks into the ground. And that will be pumped out periodically by a licensed septic hauler.
Yeah, I know most campgrounds usually have a term like so. The DEC usually says you gotta pump them out at a certain interval. You gotta show proof you got it done. I don't know what the town really wants you to do, but to me, storage, sewage, or I was under understanding that you had compost, so what do you got now? You know, so right now you're functioning without nothing.
Right now, we've had like 6 people come up, we're within the scope of the
You know,
law.
we were told that as long as we didn't go beyond
So,
certain.
so far
we'd
this
be
year,
okay.
you haven't had any big clients.
Right.
You also say.
And that's because we asked for permission to go after that, Robert.
Well,
We
there was
checked
a
on that.
group a few weeks ago.
That was a birthday.
That was a
That was his party. That was his personal
Yeah.
party. We had issues on
Happens once a
parking with
year.
that.
My concern is the parking and safety, because we've already, the person who used to own the schoolhouse got killed
on the road, and that was without anybody being parked
Mhm.
there. And then the neighbor on the other side, her neck was broken, again, just trying to come out, and that's without any additional cars. There are people who walk up the road or bike the road, and right now, I mean, I think you said somebody was already sideswiped, one of the people who was parked there. Yeah, but there, we have no shoulder on Morgan Hill, and that's a great concern to me, because somebody comes down and you're just after the curve and coming down, and they fly, there's no place for anybody to go. So this does not seem to me, there are more cars there than.
I have some pictures here, and I have a list saying what they are and what days they were. If I hand you this, you can scan through the pictures. And your leisure.
I'd like to point out that the pictures that he's taken were on a birthday party that happens once a year.
That's two of the pictures I have.
Yeah.
This is the list, and it says the days and what's going on in the picture. That's number one.
I'll tell you what, it would be much better for us as a board to have some pictures put together that you can hand us.
I got two drives here that has a whole file.
Yeah, well, we don't have, we can't just.
I can give it. I can arrange to you, you can get it.
Put
you
some
can
pictures
share it.
together and give us each a plan, like you would have a drawing, like Mr. Levine had to do.
All right.
I think that would be better.
Well, you're kind of, I mean, I got pictures there, it's only I can show pictures beyond that.
Yeah, once I leave this, I can't go back to it.
Well, I sent
Well, I
you
think
links and stuff.
That's what I think we should have.
All right, so I'll just send an email with links and pictures.
Yeah, that's what we need.
I can do that.
That way each member gets his own.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to push you off.
No, I understand.
We're listening to you.
Yeah, I mean, this is just what I just
All right.
assembled on a very short term notice. And, it shows the fire pit, it also shows the birthday party with the parking. Now, when we had the party with the birthday party, and I spoke to you even last year before I mentioned about the parking, and he schedules his birthday parties, all right? So when he schedules his birthday parties, he knows well in advance. But he just assumes everybody parks on the road. When I said, well, you got a whole field back there off to the side. He says, why don't you arrange parking there? He told me, well, if you had 80 spaces there, there's still going to be people going to park on the road.
Well, then they get tickets.
Well, they don't ticket us.
Well, then it's not his fault, it's not ours.
So he's parking on the line. This parking here. He's parking there, he's got in his drawing here. You'll see in the picture on there, you see some cars coming there. They're on an angle. They come in here and they're on an angle. He himself parks there every day. Usually he takes the first spot in the end. They're parked at an angle, so everybody backs out on that road. This clearance from here, you can't see. There's also a picture showing there. The car's coming up the road. I stood on the road, took a picture. You can't see the entrance of any driveway. This house here has got a fence that's 10 feet off the white line. Over there where the driveway is, it's 12 feet. All right? It's all overgrown. Everybody pulls in here. They pull in, park here. They got tables and stuff set in here. One pulls in here. Usually two put in here. One might go in here. And today, or yesterday, they were 5 vehicles. One's half past the gate. All pulled in. They got to back out on the road. And that's what they do. They back out on the road. They go slow and they wait and see if they hear a horn.
I think if you send us these pictures with an explanation of how you feel, that we can each see and talk to as a board.
Yes, I'll do that.
You
I'd
know,
like to just make a comment about the parking, Robert. Again, we've lived here for about 5 years, and we back out every day. And when you back out, you can see the bushes. And then when you back out a little bit further, well before you're even into the road, you can see the entire road. So if you've ever sat in a car in our driveway and backed out,
And
you
you also
know
have a
that.
small car. You have contractors do the same thing with large trucks.
And anybody that's ever had any issue or concern about backing out, they turn around and they go out nose first.
Father,
We've been there for 5 years
father-in-law
without
parks
it.
out on the street religiously, even when nobody's in there. These are all things about, you're saying you'll do this and do that, but. like
We have the adequate parking for what
Again?
we're asking for with the 2 additional tents. That's what we've been asked to
How many
do.
feet wide are you planning?
Sorry?
How many feet wide your plant? From here to here's how many feet?
That would be a question for our survey department who laid this out for us. Don Brewer Surveying.
What are you
in
asking?
Phoenicia.
I'm sorry.
How wide a space are you allowing for each car in that driveway?
It's in Alan's review.
It's already been complied.
Yeah, it's already been complied.
It's compliant?
It's been complied.
Yeah. They've already checked
Our
that. They've
advisor
sent it out
has
to a
been
third
on top
party.
of this pretty much.
Rob, I want to ask you a question because I didn't understand what you're saying. Are you saying that parking were 4 or 5 cars parking in the smaller lot, but it was, they were using the lot, they were there
In
to
here.
attend
They were in
functions
the
on the
school.
larger property?
This house here, it's all part of your classes.
No, but what I'm saying was parking.
Available
use-
in here at the same time?
Listen to me, sir. Listen, I have a question and I'd like to ask it. Are you saying that parking for the proposed use on the larger lot was actually occurring on the smaller lot? People that were attending functions on the larger lot parked on the smaller one. Is that what you were saying?
Because they migrate from one to the other property.
I
They
just
do
want to
use-
understand that.
They're using both properties on every event.
Okay. That's what I was trying to ascertain. Thank you.
Which is in fact what we initially applied for. So that's been laid out from the very beginning, Robert. We actually asked to have a special use permit for both properties.
Well, I don't
Just-
know what, I don't know what.
If you just let me finish, I'll explain to you something, because I think it'd be helpful for you. Okay? We initially came in to apply for a permit for both properties, and they said, well, you can't do that, you can't apply for the 2 properties. But we explained what we wanted to do, they said, that's fine, you can do that, but you need to get a special use permit for your additional lodging, which is what we've done. So we laid it out from the very beginning, that our intention is to rent that out separately and comply with the regulations for short-term rentals, or long-term rentals if we decide to do that. And that what we're asking here for is the special use permit because of the 2 additional tenants. So everything else we've complied with, and we've been doing this for several months.
My main thing is you're using both properties in the same events.
And my point is to you is that's been made very clear from the very beginning, and we've discussed that.
It looked to be 9 feet.
9 feet wide?
I just hope that,
Yep.
you know, you're saying you back out and you can see,
Mhm.
the people that you have in there are gonna be backing out, because we ride motorcycles up and down the road. If somebody backs out in front of me, I'm dead.
Mhm.
Just a concern.
Of course, absolutely. No, listen, we've been on the road for a long time. We've had a lot of people come and go. My father-in-law lives in the neighborhood. We're very aware of it. We're very careful. We're very communicative to anybody that comes. If it's a friend or somebody that's staying overnight, that they need to be very careful with the road. And nobody ever parks on the road except for once a year when I have a birthday party. And before they do, I go over and I talk to Robert and say, hey, Robert, just want to give you a heads up. This is what's happening. What can we do to make this comfortable for you?
We're backing out every day with our 3-year-old, and we back out really slowly,
Yeah.
and we tell anybody. to
I hear you,
come.
absolutely.
I told them.
Well, technically, you shouldn't back out at all. It's even against the laws of the state. Backing out on a highway.
Yeah, you get hit back
All right.
out, you're at
Now, if you're gonna have parking on this side, you got a lot of width there. Instead of having, you got these right now, you're even parking on angles, people come in an angle, and your driveway isn't wide enough for them to turn around and go out. Every car that goes in here, this parking lot should be designed for anybody that goes in and drive out. So, by looking at this, you need to allocate more space.
What about the side road? Like, doesn't your property go up that little road
This over here?
that's not used much?
No, that's not our property.
No.
Oh, I was gonna say, you could put a
That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, the parking definitely has to go. Definitely that fence, actually, there was another time it was there, I don't know, I think it was last year, somebody came in that schoolhouse. He's got a gate on, he's got a fence and he put a gate in. So when nobody's there, they can close the gate. The woman holding class come in, she'd come to my driveway, she was gonna turn around, but I was outside and I went like that for her. I said, no, so she did 3-point turn on the road. She turned around, stopped, then she decided she'd pull in. She had that car half in the road to get out and open that gate. So another thing that should be considered with this whole group thing is this fence should actually be moved to the road right away. I believe it's 48 feet and a half feet for width on the road, so you divide that in half. So that fence should be moved back.
I'll tell you what, you send us these pictures and your explanation of each of the pictures, and also, before any vote is done on this, we'll do a site visit.
I recommend this.
Because you can talk all night long here, and you're not sure. So that would be a good thing for the planning board to do.
because,
okay? That way,
I mean, I
We can-
mentioned,
we can
in
see
the
it.
plan more than,
okay.
more than a few times, you know, cut that back so you can see.
I'm
Sure,
not
safety
trying
as
to
well as
hurry up,
safety
but
here.
I think that will solve a lot of questions. Yeah.
Table it and then-
Does anybody else have anything to say here tonight on this?
Okay, before we close the public hearing, I just want to make sure, because I've been writing this down. So, Robert, I guess this is more to you. So the concerns, as I understand it, you're concerned about the sanitary waste disposal, concerned about the actual use of the property, perhaps, you know, maybe the dome can get rented. You're concerned about the fire pits and fire apparatus access.
Well, I'm concerned about any of the remodeling there
Up.
for inspections.
This is what I'm going through, and if I miss one, please alert me to it. You're concerned about the traffic, you're concerned about the parking on site, and you're also now, as you just reminded me, you're concerned about the physical remodeling of the structures
Right.
unpermitted. Okay, am I missing anything else? Because we're gonna discuss this, we need to review it, and I wanna make sure that I'm thorough.
I think you got it.
Okay.
The septic and parking and remodeling is,
And is there a maximum number of people that attend these things?
10.
Sorry, what was the
We've
question?
already set that.
10 is the maximum?
That will be the maximum.
also too, they had that option where people can bring their own tents. That should be excluded from this whole plan. Not allowed.
That would, we wouldn't have a big problem with that, Robert.
I wouldn't think.
If they wanted to 10 people.
I think it should be actually put in the paperwork. And it is technically campground.
These are all things we'll look into.
Okay.
Anybody else have anything they want to say? That's it? Okay, I need a motion from somebody to temporarily close this public hearing.
I'll make a motion to temporarily close the public hearing.
Second.
Well, we could table the discussion to be recontinued, yeah.
And
Because otherwise,
I think we should continue this at our next meeting.
I agree.
And then we'll have time to digest a lot of this. Information can be given to us. Maybe we can have a site visit before the next meeting.
So, Ray, your motion was to table discussions, right?
Right.
No, okay, and then Diana second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. All right. So we're not closing the public hearing. We're going to keep it open for our next meeting.
Say that last part again?
We're not closing the public hearing. It will be kept open until our next meeting, which will be September 9th. Whatever it
Is
is.
that the date tonight?
yes.
Yeah, is it the 9th?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Oh, because of Labor Day.
yeah, Labor Day is on Monday. I think that's it.
I know, it seems like.
So, just things now that the public hearing is closed, or not closed, but postponed till next meeting. A few things. Number one, we gotta get cleared up is the variance that the zoning board gave you. Okay, we never got a comply, the county was never notified of that. And we need their opinion on it. That'll be one thing that we need before we do any voting on anything. And the other thing is,
Summary this a proposal. The following materials were received for review. CPB referral for site plan memo from C.E.Dom. Notice
What are you picking up?
Your computer.
Not online.
Where is that?
Did you get a copy of the county's record?
the other thing, there was some questions.
I thought I emailed this to you when,
Can you send it to me again, just in case?
I'm gonna get a copy for you.
I don't have a mental record.
Nothing will be decided until we have a bona fide approval by the County Board of Health on the whole sewage.
Well, they also serve food for people too, so that's.
Beg your pardon?
They also serve food for the people, so that's also another issue with the Board of Health. They provide food.
Yeah, we're aware of that.
Yeah. And another thing is the amount of tents, there'll be language put in there for that, so it doesn't, your print shows 2.
We don't have any desire to
Well,
have more than that,
The
just so
wording
that you're aware.
the wording will be in there.
we're happy to remove it to this year.
That's not a problem.
totally fine. We
And,
don't want there to be more people.
The other thing is, will there be fire pits?
If there is, we'd like to have the option, so if there is, we're happy to comply with any.
Well, you'll have to comply with state
Whatever
codes.
those would be.
What a
yeah.
fire pit is
Whatever those
designed, how
regulations
it's
would be,
designed,
we'd be
how it's
happy
used.
to. If we're gonna have a fire, we'll be happy to comply with it.
Yeah, it'll have to be.
He currently has a booking for a 7-day deal. Every day he has in the agenda by the fire pit.
Yeah, well,
So
I hear you.
He's applying
And
strictly for
I really,
weekends too, right?
we closed the
Yeah, right.
public hearing temporarily. I'm not trying to cut you off, but we got a
It's
lot
all
to do
past
yet.
this weekend.
Uh,
Another issue.
All right,
So anyway, actually relative to that, Quinn, I have a couple questions. One of them I was gonna ask you tonight anyway, because when I had asked you the last meeting what the workshops were specifically, and you said Reiki and meditation, I asked you Eastern modalities. I was gonna ask you tonight if there were any workshops associated with sound.
Any
And then, workshops associated with sound.
sound,
And then I go to your website, August 20th to 25th, Sound School Level 2 Retreat. 5-day Sound School Level 2 Retreat. You know, various types of sound modalities, none of which I'm familiar with, so I really can't speak to any kind of knowledge. But we're gonna need more information on that. For example, I don't know what a sound bath is. I don't know what instrument techniques are gonna involve relative to the impact on the neighbors. So that's very important. I'm a little surprised that you actually didn't bring that up at the meeting. A couple of the other things, if you would